Hello, North America Central Area. This is Dave Card, your Innovate Institute rep, and I'm so excited to be here with Danny Bennett and James Spencer. And I'm going to have them introduce themselves to kind of start off with this podcast. And even before they introduce themselves, I've been able to talk with them. They are phenomenal individuals, and I look up to them so much already. And we're blessed to have them talking about a subject that I think all of us need to grow in and understand how to better help our young adults with dating. So anyway, Danny, let's start with you. Let's have an introduction.
Okay, sounds good. As mentioned, I'm Danny Bennett. I'm the Institute Director in Lethbridge, Alberta, and I've got 6 kids. My oldest is turning 17 next month. My youngest just turned 2. I was just telling Dave that she rules our house. And so we've got 3 girls and 3 boys, and so a nice even split. Something interesting going on in our lives right now is this Sunday, my parents are giving their farewell talk, and they'll be leaving for Las Vegas on a mission in 10 days. So
that's exciting time too. That's great. We've got a little almost 2-year-old as well, little girl, and yeah, she rules the house. Absolutely. It's so fun. Okay, James, what about you?
Yeah, I'm James Spencer. I'm up at the Edmonton, Alberta Institute Director up here. We've got 5 boys and no 2-year-olds, thank goodness, but ranging in ages from 21 to 13. Our twins, we have twins they're the 21-year-olds. They just got back from their missions in November. And then we've got another boy leaving here as soon as he's done high school. So that's kind of the focus on our house lately has been all around missionaries.
That's so awesome. James, I've said so many times, parents who are raising boys, I just pray for them, because I've got a bunch of girls that we just need good boys for my girls in this world. So thank you for what you're doing.
It is a bit of a madhouse for sure.
Yeah, I bet. So jumping in, can you give us a little overview taste of each of your assignments, your institute assignments, so that we can kind of know where you're coming from and relate a little bit to what we're experiencing in our assignments too?
Yeah, I'm the Edmonton Institute is we're right next to the University of Alberta. We've got another university we cater to that we go teach classes on campus to in downtown Edmonton. And we've got roughly 400 students. There's 2 of us full-time faculty along with some state-called teachers. And yeah, it's the first institute outside of the US back in 1953. It was dedicated and came about. Both Danny and I attended here as young adults, so it's kind of a coming home party for me. But yeah, that's basically the layout here.
That's great. Well, Danny, how about you?
yeah, so here in Lethbridge we have 2 main buildings, one by Lethbridge College and one by the University of Lethbridge, and we have about, well, as of yesterday we had 625 students enrolled. We do take in some satellite towns, Raymond, McGrath, Cardston. They all have classes there, and run an institute choir, things like that. So so yeah, it's mainly from Lethbridge, but we've got some surrounding areas that we take in as well.
Great. That's awesome. You can tell these are thriving programs that Danny and James are able to be a part of, and exciting what they're doing. And I've heard and experienced so many, even in addition to this dating workshop, they're doing so much. But we're going to just jump into this. We really want to dig in and understand this innovation that you have been doing. Can you just describe a little bit of what this Innovate idea is, maybe how it came about in each of your programs too?
Yeah, so after working with YSA for a while, I've noticed that the culture of hanging out and making out is strong, and so and the dating culture is not very strong. And so if we're helping lead these young single adults to eternal marriage, the highest covenant they can make, in this life, then hanging out and making out is not the best way to prepare them for that. And so as I've thought about that, like, how do we get the dating culture started a little bit more and encourage that, and encourage better preparation for eternal marriage? I decided to teach the preparing for internal marriage class. This was years ago, probably when you were here, James. I don't know if you were here when I started that, but I taught the course and I called it Celestial Dating, so that more people would come than preparing for an eternal marriage. Just the title makes a difference, and so it was really popular. A lot of people came, but it was my secondary class, so it was during the day, and I would have tons of students ask, "Hey, when are you going to teach this at night? When are you going to teach it at night?" So I can come, because they'd work and wouldn't be able to come during the day, or it didn't fit in their schedule. And so, but because of the structure of how we did things, and I was always teaching my primary class as my evening class. And then when Innovate Institute came along, I thought, you know what, it'd be fun to try this as a workshop, so I could do it at night. Just take 4 or 5 weeks and do it. And so I did last fall for the first time. I did it as a 4-week workshop, and then extended it a week longer because of all the material that we wanted to cover. And it was awesome. It was very well received. And so students have been asking me since then, when are you going to do it again? When are you going to do it again? And I've had a number of bishops have me come and do a 5th Sunday. I think I've done 4 5th Sundays for YSA Wards here, and then 1 family home evening for them, just an hour-long kind of condensed version of it. But students keep asking, and so I thought, why not try it again? So we did it again this semester. And how it was structured was I structured it for 5 weeks this time. We do it on a Friday night, 7 o'clock, so it's kind of date night, and there's not much else going on. We don't have any other classes or anything to interfere with it. And we just do it at 7 o'clock. Do you mind if I show my screen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Let me just share it real quick, and I'll share the structure of what we covered. Here we go. So we did the do's and don'ts of dating first. What's a date? Defining it, and then what to do, what not to do when it comes to dating. At the end of that, I gave them 130 celestial date ideas that my students came up with that initial time that I taught the course. Week 2 is differences between men and women and how that affects dating, and trying not to be really mad at the other gender for how they approach dating, because it causes a lot of frustration. And so we kind of resolve that. As part of that, I actually separate the men and the women, and I have the men talk about what they want the women to know about them when it comes to dating, and vice versa. And then we come back together and have a referee discussion on that. But I set it up in a way of, hey, let's not be mad about this, about our differences. They're divine. They're given to us by God, and we want to respect those differences. But also we need to navigate them. And so, we have a discussion. They love that. And then next week is the filtering process, what to look for in a spouse, how to get to know what you need to know in a potential spouse. And then how will I know when it's right to get married? And one thing I have noticed is that there's varying ends of the spectrum. Some students will rush in real quick, and then 3 months later they're getting a divorce. Some students will date for 3 years, and then particularly the guys I find with this, but sometimes the girls will be waiting for an answer, and I'm just not sure. I just don't have an answer yet, and they just are, or maybe they're too anxious to move forward. And so we address those issues in that class. And then week 4 is Lord's standards for dating, especially, where do I draw the line when it comes to physical affection in dating? And we don't actually answer it with a line, we answer it with principles, but we bring in the new for strength of youth and things like that, and talk about that. And then the last week I brought in my wife, and we just answered dating questions. The first week I gave them a QR code to submit questions, and then I reposted that up on my PowerPoint and during that last week, and then they submitted questions, and we just did a question answer. So that's how it's structured, and we'll talk about impact in a minute. But
yeah, that's perfect. So good, Danny. James, help us understand yours as well in your program. I think it's good to have these 2 examples so we get some different looks and ideas of how to approach it.
Yeah, ours started kind of much the same way. My colleague, Brother Hill, he was kind of teaching the Preparing for Eternal Marriage class, and I think he also titled it Celestial Dating. And it just seems to be a topic that's often discussed among the young adults. And so we did a more concentrated workshop a couple of years ago. And actually my brother found this lady at Boston College. She's a philosophy teacher, Dr. Carrie Cronin, and she had done a ton of research on dating and trying to fight the hookup culture there and kind of saying, why are people more comfortable hooking up than they are going on a traditional date? So she developed a course where they learned what a traditional date was, and then part of the course they had to go on a date, which was like a huge leap for a lot of people. So my brother was in a bishopric actually with Brother Hill at the time, and he did a Fifth Sunday lesson on it. And it just kind of created a buzz, quite a buzz around here. And so we latched on to some of her material, coupling it with similar topics that Danny just outlined, and created a workshop. And then just kind of realized it was frustrating to like, we wanted to see some application of sorts in come about. And so we started to do dating activities, building off of the principles that we covered and kind of some rules of dating that Dr. Cronin kind of highlights. And then we just tweaked them a bit. But that's been super fun. And I think has just added another element to it all and created a fun energy. So the activity is pretty simple. We just have 20 guys, 20 girls sign up. We had an institute council kind of help us pair people up, so it wasn't like us playing matchmaker, but the idea was just to keep it really simple, low pressure. They get matched up for 2 dates with people within the group that we did just that night at the institute. Goofy little dates, playing with Play-Doh or whatever, like just simple things. The point being just to talk with someone and get to know them. And then the 3rd date, they had to ask someone outside of that group. So you had a lot of dates happening within a 2 or 3 week time span. And they had to send us pictures of their date and that we put on a wall so people could come and see that, one person went on multiple dates with different people, and like, that's okay to do without a lot of pressure. And so that we ended up doing that several times, just the dating activity without the workshop leading up to it. And we're realizing now, after the 4th time of trying it, we need to bring back that educational component to it. Otherwise, they see it as just an activity, still kind of fun, but kind of missing the point. And but cool, really cool things kind of came of all of it. And there's been some good impact, I think.
Well, let's jump into that impact, James. Let's just we've talked
Yeah.
about yours a little bit. And I think there's kind of 2 elements to the impact. It's really, how is it blessing young adults in their own life in attending Institute, but also with our new objective, deepening their conversion to the Savior and his restored gospel. So share your thoughts on those ideas.
Yeah. Well, for sure, the impacting the students in their own lives, like just anecdotally, like we also sent little feedback forms for them to fill out so we could improve on what we're doing. But just hearing statements like from girls in particular, wow, this is the first time I've ever asked boys out in my life. I've never asked a boy out on a date. And hearing multiple girls say similar things and how it affected their confidence, and some saying, I can't believe what we put these boys up to, having to ask us out and stuff. And then hear a boy say, I've only ever been on group dates, never a solo date. So now I've been on some dates and I just feel great about that. And those activities definitely brought people in who hadn't really been attending our classes. So there's some good exposure that way, just to the Institute program and to other people. And then as far as conversion to Christ goes, I mean, that's where we need to, again, bring that educational component back into it with the workshops to kind of focus on what meaningful relationships are and how we should develop those relationships, both with God and man, and loving God, loving your neighbor, I think is primarily what we kind of get out of this. But yeah, not as much focus conversion with those activities per se, but for sure in the workshops.
Yeah. Thank you. Cool. Love it. Hey, Danny, what about you? What impact are you seeing with the workshop in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, very similar to James, in that dating, it becomes more normalized for these young single adults. And I joke around with my students and say, hey, make sure you report all your dating activities to me. If you want to pass this workshop, you got to report your activity, But and I've had tons of students come and be like, "Hey, I got asked on a date," or "I asked someone on a date," and they're just super excited about it. And so there was definitely a buzz created through that. As far as numbers wise, I just looked over them yesterday, and we had um, out of at the end of last week, 620 were enrolled, and 227 students attended the workshop at least once.
Hmm.
And so over a third of students, and we have a number of married students and students out of town and some online and stuff. So out of the YSA, it's a higher percentage than that. But and then the unique students to Celestial Dating, there were 39 unique students that hadn't attended any other classes.
Hmm.
And so I found as I looked through that, it was interesting to me. There's a little bit of a trend that those that were unique to that class, a number of them were 25 plus. We're kind of that group that we have a hard time reaching, of the 25 to 30-year-olds who, kind of been there, done that institute wise, but oh, Celestial Dating, what's that about? And they're obviously not married yet. So there was a number of them. There was several people that weren't members. It's kind of an easy invite, or those who are less active. It's an easy invite for people to come, and because it's just kind of low-key workshop, fun. We try and make it really fun. And then as far as just impact on helping them come to Christ, it's kind of a topic in a workshop that isn't as explicitly focused on Christ as maybe some other courses or workshops might be. But I mean, this week in my regular class, I'm teaching on revelation, receiving revelation through prayer. We talk about how to make our prayers powerful and connect to God through that. And so it's not necessarily explicitly focused on Christ, but it is. It is. We bring in the brother of Jared and how prayer helped him through the veil and connected to Christ. But same with the Celestial Dating workshop. If eternal marriage is the highest covenant, or the covenant that allows us to enter into eternal families, as we encourage that, as we teach about that, then it is focused on Christ in that way, because he makes it possible. We do in the teaching component, like James was saying, we do have several instances where we go into the scriptures. All of the materials focused on words of prophets, things like that. And so, for example, we go into the Sermon on the Mount to see, what's some good dating advice in the Sermon on the Mount, and that's Christ's teachings, and it's interesting to see what they pull out. So that's just a little example of that.
I love this. And I I think about Sister Julie Beck too, who taught very explicitly anything anti-family is anti-Christ. And the inverse of that, as we really help these young adults exercise faith in progressing towards family life and eternal marriage, they are progressing in their faith towards Jesus Christ, because they are interconnected, right? Focus on the family, focus on the Savior. And so thank you. I think this is so crucial that we're talking through this and trying to innovate in our own assignments, how to strengthen marriage and family and help these young adults, young single adults especially, have hope in their future family and what can be and what can be accomplished as they learn how to date in the Lord's way. So tell me your inspiration as a kind of a final question. What are you coming away with? What are you learning that could bless another individual who wants to try a dating workshop, wants to move forward with something like this in their assignment? What counsel would you give?
Yeah, I would just say it is so relevant to where they're at, and there's not really a good forum for them to talk about dating, to have a conversation, an open conversation. Like I said before, maybe girls gripe about guys and guys gripe about girls and their lack of willingness to date or whatever it is. And but it's just so refreshing to have an open conversation where we can lay it all out, talk about what are the issues with it, how to make it successful, and they love it. They just love talking about that. So I would say that's one thing that they can give you, I guess, encouragement to do it, is it's something that they love to talk about, and they need a forum for it, where it's not where it's free of judgment. And I would say even in the church setting, they might hold back a little bit in, say, a Sunday school or whatever, but at Institute they feel a little more free to talk about things. Also, they I would say the buzz that it creates around dating is is kind of a, I don't know how I'd say it, but the culture around Institute, it creates kind of a fun and inviting culture around Institute, and they think, oh, this is more than just sitting in a class, traditional class, and I'm going to tell you what I know about the gospel. It's more of a, and especially with what James is doing with that experiential experience, it creates more of a, hey, this is more than just traditional classes that we can be part of, and they really like that.
Fantastic. What would you add, James?
Well, not much. I think, yeah, Danny hit it. It's definitely relevant. It's on their mind. And I do think it also fosters a feeling of belonging as well, especially kind of through the experiential part of it, just helping people feel like they can kind of take control of their own destiny and don't have to, and they're part of something great, and then, yeah, the buzz, the talking about it, there needs to be a bit of a culture shift, no question, I think, with it all. And if we can play a small role in that and in helping create that relaxed environment to be open and honest, and that can't be a bad thing at all. So
yeah, wonderful. You both use the word relevant, and I just feel I have to share with you. I looked up the etymology, the origin of that word relevant, because we use it all the time, and I feel like I had an idea of what relevant was, but this changed when I learned that relevant, an original root word, is like to relieve, right? And when you're relieving something, it's relieving a burden, a pain, suffering that they're experiencing. And so to think of our young adults and youth as we're trying to help them, like what's really burdening them right now? What are the pain points? And this is one for our young single adults. Absolutely. This evokes a lot of pain and emotion and tenderness in their lives, that they're not married yet. They don't know how to go about it. And to give them a workshop, a class that really speaks to that pain that they're experiencing, oh, that is relevant. That is relevant for them. So thank you for inspiring us. But Dan, you had something else too.
Well, I was just going to add a thought to that. In our question and answer during the last class, a student asked, if I struggle with mental health challenges, and should I be dating with my mental health challenges, right? And just such a sincere question that they might not be able to ask, anywhere else. And so my wife was there, and she was able to relate to some mental health challenges, and to just show her love and encourage that person to continue to move forward. You didn't choose those challenges, and God will help you through that. So if you have the desire to date, then absolutely, move forward. And she had a girl come up to her in tears after class, just saying, that really touched her heart. And so just things like that, like you're saying, they are in pain in certain ways and in various ways, or just not knowing how to move forward in some cases, and this can be a freeing experience for them to move past some of those barriers.
Yeah, beautiful examples. Thank you. And that's right there, deepening conversion to the Savior, because they're finding strength in Him, in that pain that they're feeling. That's beautiful. Thank you both. This has been so wonderful. I'm going to invite everybody, if you have questions about doing a workshop like these, call Danny, call James. They would love to help. I'm speaking for them, but I know who they are. They'd love to help. They love to answer questions. So please reach out to them. And I think we need to embrace this opportunity we have to help young single adults prepare for eternal marriage in the Lord's way. So thank you for what you do, Danny and James. This has been great.
Thanks.
Thank you.